Starbases were originally created to be the mechanic of controlling sovereignty in the early days of EVE. Now since then, multiple patches have changed the way sovereignty works as a whole, and the result is that player-owned Starbases are now part of the kit of tools that players can use to build their empires. Starbases will be phased out eventually and replaced with citadels, but until that time they remain the most affordable structures that players can use within this category, so that's why we're looking at them today. The potential uses for Starbases include creating a zone of safety similar to that of a station or citadel, as well as being the only place that players are able to perform the lucrative moon harvesting, alchemy, and reactions of various types. Starbases come in multiple flavors and sizes, which range in fuel requirement, making up the monthly upkeep cost, which we'll get into in a minute, and the fuel is made from roughly equal parts of PI materials and ice products. Now, as far as strict requirements to put down a player-owned Starbase, the only thing that you are looking at in terms of skill is called anchoring. Now, the anchoring skill is also used for anchorable containers in space, as well as mobile warp disruptors, but that is the only strict skill that you will need to put up a Starbase. Now, you're also going to have to make use of a hauler or industrial ship in order to put down the control tower, as we'll get into in the next section, and maintain it. So, of course, you'll make sure to skill for that. Now, a high-volume hauler such as a deep space transport or a jump freighter typically works best in this situation, but of course it's up to you, and in many situations a blockade runner or a traditional hauler will work just fine. As for your shopping list, the Starbase itself comes in the form of an item called a control tower, which ranges both in size and has faction and pirate variants as well. Now, the main difference in these is how many modules called arrays you can equip to your Starbase to perform various tasks. Listed here, you're going to see some of the typical fuel costs for each of these sizes, which varies as well. Now, it's worth note that each of the pirate and faction variants do come with a decent reduction to fuel use, and as well, there's an additional fuel use reduction available to Starbases within your alliance's sovereignty if that applies to you. Now, fittings for Starbases are going to vary quite significantly depending on what you want to accomplish with the Starbase. Small and medium control towers are best suited to just being a home away from home, equipped perhaps with things like a ship maintenance array or corporate hangar array, as well as moderate defense, of course, whereas a large control tower can be equipped easily to do reactions and alchemy, and has a significantly enhanced defensive capability. Now, there is a wide array of fittings available for Starbases, so I would recommend that players go in with a bit of a plan in mind. Now, if you did want to make use of a fitting tool for Starbases, which I would highly recommend, I'm going to go ahead and put a link in the description for one called the IGB POS Planner. Now, this one has been around probably longer than any other, so I feel it deserves the thumbs up. As well, for anything Starbase related we do on the channel, I'll make sure to go ahead and leave a loadout for the control tower the same way that I would for ships. As a general rule of thumb, you want to be using all of the fitting available for the control tower the same as you would for ships, and it does work much the same way with both CPU and power grid to be used. Today's loadout will be very simple, featuring a corporate hangar array, a few shield hardeners, and some small and medium weapons and ammo, just to show you how things work. The defenses on Starbases work, again, very similar to ships, with adequately skilled players able to take control of select modules up to 6 per character, controlled by a skill called Starbase Defense Management. A fully equipped and manually gunned large control tower is a formidable foe, even for hostile capital ships, and can be definitely able to take those down with the use of specific anti-capital weapons. Now, if your Starbase does come under siege, so long as the Strontium Bay is appropriately filled with Strontium, the Starbase will enter what's called a reinforce cycle when it reaches 25% shield, whereby the Starbase will become invulnerable but will count down and become visible to the public until it depletes its stockpile of Strontium, and then needs to be attacked a second time once it becomes vulnerable in order to be killed. Something important to note that during this time, the Starbase is in reinforced mode, its core will cease to produce CPU, such that any modules which require CPU will turn offline. However, modules which require only power grid, such as guns and many other batteries, will continue to function normally. Starbases are not safe as citadels because they do not feature the asset safety mechanic, which allows players to retrieve lost assets after a period of cooldown. Because of this, we want to use only Starbases as a temporary home away from home, or for their intended and specific purpose such as reactor farming, but not to allow the value of items or ships stored in the Starbase to grow out of proportion to the Starbase's defensive capability. Onwards now to anchoring the physical Starbase, and I'm going to use a ship today called an Octor, which is a class of ship called a deep space transport. Now, I've gone ahead and done an entire additional video just for the purposes of exploring this particular aspect of vessels, and if you're interested in that, there is a link at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. It's a perfect vessel for what we're going to use today, which is simply a large multi-purpose hauler that allows us to carry all of the stuff that we'll need. Now, in addition to this list of items that you'll see here, we're also going to need Starbase charters in the event that you're doing this in high sec. Now all you're going to have to do is go ahead and select this Launch for Corporation option on the control tower itself, and then you're going to have to go ahead and pan around in space, find the control tower, right-click and anchor it. At that time, it's going to go ahead and jump to the position at the moon. This can only be done at moons. And oftentimes this is 100 kilometers or more away. Now if you're using a deep space transport as I am in this video, then getting 100 kilometers is super easy, and I'm just going to blink using my micro jump drive and then go ahead and cloak at a safe distance from the control tower. Now from this vantage point, we're going to be able to watch the process called nano-assemblers go ahead and allow the control tower to take shape, and this is a very cool video transition actually that is going to be carried over into Citadels, or has been carried over from pauses, so indeed they have left their mark on the universe. Now once this process is complete, all you're going to have to do is go ahead and click and drag that fuel into the fuel bay, strontium into the stront bay, and then we're going to be able to select put online as an option for this control tower. Now, as soon as I hit this button, of course, it's going to error if I don't have the right charters or fuel, but if it goes through smoothly, then all we have to do is simply wait another phase for the control tower to come online. Now, these anchoring and online timers will be different for each size of control tower, so as a small tower, this is only taking a few minutes. If this were a medium or large, it would take a little bit longer. Now, what I'm going to go ahead and show you now is the manage screen for Starbases, which is the main way that you'll be able to interact with the Starbase in terms of configuration options, and it does have lots of different panels that are going to show you things from the potential resources on the moon to the amount of fuel left in the fuel bay. You can see here it's not really working or lagging for me, but that's okay. We'll get into this dialogue a little bit in more detail in future videos, but for now, let's just go ahead and set some basic defense settings, and then I'm going to set a Starbase force field password, which is going to be the trigger for the force field to turn online. Now you'll see as soon as I do, and I hit the apply button, the force field is going to spring into action. It's going to decloak my ship, and I will be now completely safe, impermeable, within the Starbase force field itself. Now from here, all that's really left to do is to anchor the modules that represent whatever functions this control tower is meant to do. So I'm going to go ahead and right click and launch for corporation, same as the control tower for each of these modules, and then I'm going to have to pan around in space again, same as the control tower, find them, and then hit this anchor button right here. Now what this is going to do is trigger the anchor dialog, which looks like a green rectangular box with arrow indicators. You're going to drag around those arrow indicators, and when you find the right position, you're going to right click on an arrow and then go ahead and hit anchor here. Now that's only going to take a few seconds for each module, and you can queue up new modules in between. So I've prepared a bit of a montage of me anchoring these modules. Now I'm using the manage screen to trigger the anchor, which makes this a little bit handier. It is a good tip for you to use. And additionally, of course, it's important to keep in mind that defensive modules such as the hardeners that I'm using go inside the force field, same with service modules, and the guns and stuff go on, of course, the outside of the force field. Now all that's left to do is to put some ammo in these guns, and they're going to be ready for full defensive use. At this point, our Starbase is completely operational. This is a great pop tent setup. Again, I'm going to include the full fittings list in the description. All that you need to do from here is maintain it with fuel, and if you should need to unanchor it, it's simply the reverse of each of these operations, making sure to take down the modules first, and then you're going to unanchor the physical control tower afterwards. That is going to be it for this video, my dudes. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you're getting some important information out of these lessons. There's going to be more coming, so make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and of course, if you have anything interesting to add or something you're curious about, hit that comment button. I'm out for now.